Daniel, ready when you are?
Yes, Naseem, you can start anytime.
Okay. All right. Thanks. Right. Good morning, everyone. This is Naseem here. Welcome to the continuation of the long L2 series, which Leong Hong Kit and Lam Wai Lun had started during the lockdown. This particular session is a little bit different in that there is an opportunity for you to interrupt me at any time. It's a workshop format, so you can interrupt me anytime. Either unmute yourself and just speak up, or if you want, you can actually type in on the chat screen. I'll check on it occasionally to see what's going on. Okay, so let's get the basics out of the way. The other thing I want to share with you is, maybe I'll just share the actual flyer first. Okay, now, so I mentioned it's a practical guide. I mentioned it's a workshop, and I said you can interrupt me anytime. So treat it as an interactive workshop. And the other thing is, this is purely about subcontracts. And in fact, specifically, it's about domestic subcontracts. I'll explain what it is in a minute, as opposed to nominated subcontracts. So feel free. Now, just to test it out that you're able to unmute yourself, Daniel, who is our tech moderator, will make sure, I'm sure he has already enabled you to be able to unmute yourself. Can I have one volunteer to just unmute and say, hi, it's me, or just say, yes, I can hear you loud and clear? Anyone? Just testing it. Anyone?
Good morning, Dr. Naseem. Yes, I can hear you. It's me.
Okay, Honkit, brilliant. But maybe you got privileges, you see. So I want the normal people, not the extraordinary people like you. So any other normal person? Sorry?
What about the tech moderator?
Okay, tech moderator. Anyone else? Anyone from the audience? Anyone? All you have to do is just unmute, say, yes.
Yes, Dr. Naseem, I can hear you.
Okay, brilliant. Okay, that's fine. Good. We're also testing to see that everybody doesn't jump in at the same time, but that's okay. Yep. So, okay, good. It works. So you can unmute yourself. Now, if you are still going to be making breakfast or cooking in the background, make sure that you mute yourself, because, you know, the ching chong cooking is not so conducive to construction contracts. Okay, that's good. So that's the first ground rule. The other is a couple of housekeeping. A number of you would like, I don't know why, to sort of get a certificate from the L2 team. Fair enough, that I can understand, because quite frankly, the certificate looks very nice. It's very professional. So for that reason alone, it's worth getting that certificate. For CPD is irrelevant, because, you know, you're here for the knowledge, not for the CPD. That's why the numbers are limited. You know, we don't want hundreds of people. This is a workshop, okay? So if you want to get a certificate, L2 have decided that we need to do some sort of a snapshot to prove that you're on board. So in about 10 minutes or so, there will be an opportunity for you to, I mean, we'll just take a snapshot of the list of names of those who are on this webinar. And Daniel will take a snapshot of all the names, and then we'll carry on. I don't think it's necessary for you all to show your faces or whatever. Just Daniel know what to do. I'll just remind you anyway. So we'll take a short pause so that Daniel can take a snapshot of who is on board at 2:45, and then again 15 minutes before we finish.
Dr. Naseem, let me interrupt you a little bit right here.
Okay. Yes, sir.
It's not that I will be taking the pictures, and I'm not me to snap a shot for all the pictures. It will be the audience, the participants right over here, who likes to claim for the certificate. themselves need to snapshot your picture. Maybe you'll be doing a gesture by number 1 and number 2. So to prove that they are here at that moment. So the first snapshot will be at the beginning of the show after 10 to 15 minutes. And the second one will be at the end of the show.
Yeah.
Okay. For the audience who would like to claim for the certificate, please do the snapshots and send it to email that later I will provide in a group chat.
Okay, there you go. In fact, the tech moderator, Daniel, was a little bit reluctant. Oh, I don't want to interrupt you when you're speaking. Brilliant. Thanks, Daniel, for interrupting me. That's exactly what I want to do today. Anyone can interrupt. Do just carry on talking, say, excuse me, or whatever, or maybe you can put your hands up. I'll try and look out for that as well. Okay, so good. So thanks for that. So just to recap that, at about 2:45 or so, we'll have a short break. So you can actually take a snapshot because your name will be appearing there. You take a snapshot to prove, and then you send it by email to the tech moderator or to the email address that of the L2 series. Would that be correct, Daniel? Confirm? Yes?
Yes, correct. And another thing, it will be better, just a little for all the audience. They can choose right at the bar, there's a view options, correct? So when they choose a side-to-side view with your slides sharing and also together with all the participants for your videos and everything's on, take a snapshot from that. That will be great. Okay. If anyone is not clear, you can text and ask me how.
Right. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Brilliant. Thank you. So if anyone is not clear, you can actually chat. And if you chat directly to tech moderator, it'll go only to tech moderator. If you put to all, everybody will see your question anyway. So it's fine. It's all good. Okay. So that's a bit of housekeeping. And okay. Now, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to jump straight into what is it that I will be dealing with, and then I'll deal with the matter. And at the end, we progressively will have questions and what the plan is in terms of what is next after this. Okay. Now, so let's start first. So we've got construction contracts, typically between the client and the main contractor. So that's the main contract. It could be in a Malaysian context. By the way, I haven't, well, we didn't really circulate this worldwide. So the focus for today's session is primarily in a Malaysian context. Although, having said that, next week, the plan is to make it a bit more international, and I will come up with an alternative contract to what we're going to be dealing with today. So that's the first point. So main contract examples would be PAM, could be the JKR contract, could be the CIDB contract, which is hardly used. It could be the FIDIC contract. It could be any contract, could be the IEM contract, could be the AIAC contract, and so on. So that is what we mean by main contract, okay? But what I'm going to be focused on today is the subcontract. In other words, the contract between the main contractor and the subcontractor. There are normally lots of subcontractors. So that's the first point to remember. The second point to remember is this, that through this session is about a domestic subcontract. Now, I just want to make it clear, what do I mean by domestic subcontract? By domestic subcontract, I don't mean domestic means Malaysia. What I mean is a subcontractor who is chosen by the main contractor. So that's what we mean by domestic subcontract, as opposed to a nominated subcontractor. A nominated subcontractor is a subcontractor who is selected by the client or the architect or whoever it is that's the contract administrator. And then the main contractor has to enter into a contract with that nominated subcontract. We're not talking about that today. Okay, we're talking about domestic. Domestic means main con, choose your own subcontractor. That is a contract. Why? For every main contract, there could be hundreds of subcontracts. That's the first thing, observation. Second observation, for every main contract, there could be maybe 4 or 5, maybe 6 at the most, nominated subcontracts chosen by the client or the contract administrator. Example, maybe for M&E works, maybe for plumbing, maybe, you know, typically specialist work like lift and so on. However, where is the subcontract, a standard form of contract for the domestic subcontract for all the other works. Very often, this is signed on the back of an envelope, or it is signed on the back of some correspondence, or it is done orally, or sometimes it's done on the back of the main contractor's own standard form that they normally use. So, wow, it's all over the place. So it could be anything. Who knows what it is? So today, I'm going to share with you a standard form of domestic subcontract published in Malaysia in 2006, and then we had a slight revision, and there's a 2007 edition. Remember, this is 13, 14 years ago. That's a long time. I feel that a second edition is due, and I really feel a second edition should be produced this year. And I will use feedback from today's workshop and give feedback to CIDB, and I will suggest to them we initiate a second edition through a committee, having taken into account your feedback, hence it's called a workshop. And I'm hoping this time the likes of maybe if Lam Wai Lun is available, or Hong Kit, who is a well-known claims consultant who has done I don't know, more than 400 adjudications in Malaysia and so on. So people like that will be in the committee that we can review and revise. Okay, so that is the plan. So I hope everyone is clear. Now, at some point throughout today's session, I will progressively be asking you some questions in the form of a poll, a quick poll. It'll just be a short poll. And this is, you know, it's entirely anonymous. So you don't have to worry about, oh dear, somebody will know whether my answer is correct or not. Don't worry about it, okay? So it's entirely anonymous, but the purpose of the poll is one, so that I know you haven't fallen asleep. Second, so that you are engaged. And third, so that I get a bit of feedback. Okay, so a few reasons why I would do that poll. And I can actually, if I am given the co-hosting rights, I can actually activate the poll myself. But I don't have to do any poll now, but at some point, we will do that. And yeah, okay, there's another 1.5 minutes before we do that snapshot to prove that you're here. And I'll just carry on to say what I will do. So I repeat, we'll be dealing with domestic subcontracts today, the contract between the main contractor and the subcontractor, that the main con chooses themselves, not nominated.
Dr. Naseem.
Yes, sir.
Sorry, I would like to interrupt you. I have a question for you. This is a very common questions from subcontractors. Can they actually refuse the terms on the subcontract? Whereas they usually do not have the choice, right? The main con will just put them on some standard form of contract. So can they actually refuse to sign?
Okay, good question. It's like saying, what choice do I have? That kind of question, right? Okay, right. The answer is this. Before a contract is awarded to a subcontractor, the main contractor might invite one or two or anyone, really. At that point, if you as a subcontractor don't want to take up the job, you've got every right. Of course, that one goes without saying. Okay. The problem comes when you are interested in the job, you have put in a quotation or proposal or whatever, and then the main contractor gives you the sort of a draft or maybe the actual contract and saying, hey,
it's
look,
2:45.
This is what you're going to be signing. And then you look at it and say, oh, I don't like it, I don't want whatever. As long as there is no contract yet, of course you can say no. Okay, now here is where today's session, I hope at the end of today's session, we can all up the level of professionalism in industry. In future, I'm hoping that since there is already a standard form of domestic subcontract, which we'll be looking at the second edition, you know, a draft of it by next week, okay, where the main contractor will say, hey, look, I'm going to use this. Okay, hopefully. Now, they can modify. And it's at that point when you haven't got a contract yet, Mr. Domestic Subcontractor or Madam Domestic Subcontractor, of course you can say, I'm sorry, I don't like this. You can. So as long as there's no legally binding contract yet, anytime the parties can say, I'm not signing that, I don't want that.
Naseem, is it okay to put a qualifying terms then, like when they return the standard form of contract, like PAM subcontract 2006, and there are some contractual provisions that the subcontractor doesn't like, and upon signing and returning the COC, we just cross few clauses or add some words. Would that be contractually binding?
Okay. Now, you are looking at a situation when you say PAM and so on, you're looking at the, say, nominated subcontract, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Or,
right.
or a domestic subcontract.
Even domestic. Okay, fine.
Yeah,
fine.
even,
So,
yes.
okay, so if a contract hasn't been entered into yet, we're just, the main contractor say, hey, look, this is the form of contract we'll be using. You as a subcontractor looks at it and you say, oh, no, I don't like this, I don't like that. You are perfectly at liberty to say, I want all this deleted. Yes, you can, because you don't have a contract yet. Effectively, the contractor has given you a set of a proposal, if you want, an offer, if you want. And then you, instead of saying yes and so on, you're saying, no, you're basically counter offering with those changes. You can do that because you haven't got a legally binding contract yet. You're still sort of process of negotiation. Some call it battle of the forms in legal terminology. So you're still discussing. You can do that. So if you do that, all the provisions in that you have changed is what you are now counter proposing. Then it's for the main contractor to say, wow, you want payment cash on delivery? You mean, within 1 day, 2 days? No. And then they will then come back to say, nope, we cannot accept this. If you want this, I cannot accept this. Oh, but this one is okay and that one is okay. So you're having a bit of a negotiation until the point when, okay, everything is agreed, document everything. That's when officially a contract has been entered into. So you can counter propose. It's for the other party to say yes, no, whatever, because you're still negotiating. But once the contract is signed and both have agreed, after that, halfway through the project, too late. Okay, so you can counter propose. Now, today, I will be looking at a standard form of contract, domestic subcontract, and I'll be looking at, is this in favor of client? In favor of the contractor, or is this in favor of the subcontractor? And how you might want to change or propose or whatever. So I'll be looking at both parties' viewpoints. Okay. Okay. Now, the other point I want to say is this, highlight an important point, and maybe, okay, yeah, just one more point before we take a break to do that snapshot. And that is this. Under the Construction Industry Payment and Adjudication Act 2012 in Malaysia, oral contracts are not captured by this act, which means if you have an oral subcontract between a main contractor and a subcontractor, any subcontractor, and if, say, you have a dispute, you cannot refer that dispute to adjudication under the Construction Industry Payment and Adjudication Act 2012. If you want to, you can, if parties agree, you can do whatever you want, of course, that goes without saying. But all I'm saying is it is not automatically captured. So if one of the parties, for instance, doesn't want to adopt adjudication or even arbitration or whatever, if it's an oral contract, then the only solution is really, especially if you've entered into an oral contract, there's no arbitration clause, your only remedy is to go to court. Unless the parties agree to go to arbitration, unless the parties agree to mediation, unless the parties agree to negotiate. Think about it. Okay? So it's critically important that we standardize the domestic subcontract in writing. Any questions, anyone so far? No? Okay. What I'll do is I'll pause at intervals, give you about 10 seconds or so, no questions, and then we'll move on. Perhaps now might be a good time, and the tech moderator can help us if anyone needs any help, how you would take that snapshot evidencing that you are here at 10:45. One way is, of course, I can, for instance, in my case, because no, I don't need CPD points, but never mind. I'll I do need CPD points, but we've got so many from the L2 series anyway. I got more than 30 hours. So I'll take a snapshot. We'll do that right now. Let's do it. You can take your phone and take a snapshot, and there you go. That's mine done. So, oh, okay. Yeah, that's a good one. You can put your, and so whatever. You can do however you want. So I'll give you a couple of minutes or so for you to try it out. Okay. And whilst you do that, I will also test to see that the polls are all working and so on.
So please review yourself as well on the video, show that as evidencing that you are here. Thank you very much.
And Daniel, I am looking at the poll. So I've WhatsApped you the 2 questions. At some point, once you've got that, just let me know. Yep.
Yeah, sure. The 2 questions already posted on the poll sessions.
Oh, I see. Okay, let me just check that. 2 or 4. Is it 2 or 4? Oh, okay, good. And then that's poll 6. Yes. Okay. Yep. Okay. So let me try and well. Okay, I'm going to do a quick poll whilst you're taking that snapshot, just to see, to show people how the poll works. I'll launch a poll. I'll make a statement, and you say whether it's true or false. Okay. The statement is, I have had lunch. And the poll question is, I have had lunch. True or false? If you haven't had lunch, you have to answer false. If you have had lunch, you'll say true. And if you don't know, then you put don't know. But, well, I'm hoping people know what they're doing. So I have had lunch. That is a statement. And let's see if we can get a good number of respondents so that it's a bit more engaging. Okay. And then I'll end the poll in about, it's been 30 seconds since I launched the poll. I'll give you another 25 seconds. And meanwhile, go ahead and do your snapshot and everything else. I have had lunch. I'm not allowed to vote because, I don't know, I'm a co-host. Never mind. So I can't vote. Never mind. Okay. Oh, some of you are still voting. Okay. Come on. Faster, faster. It's simple. I have had lunch. Yes or no? True or false? That's all. Okay, good. 80% have voted. Right. Okay, once we hit 80%, I'll just carry on because it shows you are well engaged. But it'll be nice to get even more than 80%. Anyone else voting? Yep. Going. Oh, one more. Okay, 84%. Going. Anyone else voting? No. Okay, I'm going to end the poll and I'm going to share the results. The results are, so you can see it, right? 40% have had lunch and 51% haven't had lunch. Wow, that's amazing. I thought it's late morning. Never mind. It's just a test run anyway. And 9% don't know. That's okay. So there you go. It works. So the poll works, and that's excellent. Right. Okay. Now, the other thing I just want to, so I assume you've all taken a snapshot, and I'm going to carry on. Now, the other thing I want to highlight, critically important, is this. I said earlier, the subcontract, the domestic subcontract we're going to be dealing with, can be used with any main contract. Look at this. For instance, it says here, whether it's JKR contract, PAM contract, whatever it is, any contract, even a designable contract, you can use this domestic subcontract. Okay, so it doesn't matter what the main contract is, you can use this subcontract, domestic subcontract, for any type of main contract and any type of procurement method, whether it's a design and build, traditional, management contract, construction management, whatever. Okay, that's the other important point I want to say. Okay. And then I want also to persuade you why you should consider having a standard form. I'm telling you that if you have a standardized, published standard form of domestic subcontract, it's so much more economical. You don't have to draft one every time. That's one advantage. It's a bit more certain. You know what the clauses are. And if you repeatedly use it like a main contractor, instead of using a different one every time, if you repeatedly use it, you'll be more familiar with it. So it'll be quicker. Okay. And as a subcontractor, if you see this regularly coming up, you will be able to price it quicker. Okay. And it becomes easier. And that's what it is. You know, pricing and managing the risk becomes easier. You know what it is. I know. I'm also going to show you how to amend and edit this contract to suit. Maybe the main con say, this one is a bit too balanced. I want to make it more in my favor. Or maybe a subcontractor will say, no. I want to make it a little bit more towards in my favor. Okay, so you can do whatever you want, but at least it's more manageable. And then, of course, critically important, which is my favorite thing, the plain language style can help avoid disputes, because this particular subcontract is written in plain English. There is also a plain Bahasa Malaysia version. Okay, you can actually download that. So there's a Malay version and there's an English version. So we'll take note that there is such a version. Now, the new edition will be an improvement on this one that I'm going to share with you. Now, amongst the things that I'll be covering today is compatibility or otherwise with CIPA, Construction Industry Payment and Adjudication Act. This particular one obviously doesn't, it's not consistent with what CIPA is suggesting, because this was published in 2006, 2007, okay? And then flexibility, okay? How you can shift the risk from the contractor to the subcontractor, or from the subcontractor to the main contractor. I'll show you how you can shift the risk in many instances without changing the contract, changing meanings without editing it. Okay, so use a standard form. You don't have to do much by filling in the blanks and so on. I'll share with you how comprehensive it is. I mean, it's even got provisions for acceleration. Wow. Okay, so it is pretty comprehensive. How lean it is to show you how short the contract is, how very few number of clauses. It's not very long at all. Okay. And how effective it would be to administrate. Effective means getting it right first time. I want to demonstrate to you during this workshop, do you understand this? Do you know what to do? And so on. And I want to prove to you that it can be done getting it right first time. And also how easy it is, which means you'll be more efficient, it's quicker. Okay. And also how practical it is. You know, it's not just theory or a textbook kind of a contract, but it's not practical and so on. How sustainable the contract terms are, meaning you don't have to keep amending it every day. Well, every week, every project. Nah, it's long term. You can just fill in the appendices in a different way and it'll be fine. And I'll show you how balanced it is, okay, from an industry perspective. However, I also said you can shift the risk between the main contractor and subcontractor, domestic subcontractor quite easily, okay? And those are the next 2 points, you know, on item 10. How do you make it so that the risk favors the main contractor? How do you shift it? How do you modify it to shift more of the risk in favor of the subcontractor? Now, why am I doing this? Shouldn't it be a contract which is fair and all that? The answer is this. In our legal system, in Malaysia, in the UK, in Australia, New Zealand, in US and so on, contracts don't have to be fair. Contracts have to be written in such a way that it clearly allocates the risk between the main con and the subcon. There's no such thing as, wow, this contract is exactly 50-50. No need. Okay, so let's get that clear. There's no such thing as a perfect 50-50. No such thing. But the contract can be fair through a pricing mechanism. Example, if say in your subcontract that I'm going to be sharing with, you are, as a main contractor, you are going to get the subcontractor, your domestic subcontractor, to not just build it, but the subcontractor is also going to
It's 3 o'clock.
Design and build. Oh, wow. Okay. Might be the roofing work subcontractor. Mr. Subcontractor, you have to produce the shop drawings and you have to build it as well. So it's not just building. Okay. Wow. Okay. Well, the risk is more on the subcontractor, right? If the risk is more on the subcontractor, you can't say, oh, that's not fair. Forget it. The concept of fairness doesn't arise. There are exceptions. But in a commercial dealing between a main contractor and a subcontractor, a domestic subcontractor, it's fair game. You can agree anything you want as long as it's not illegal. So in this case, wow, there's more risk on the subcontractor. So the subcontractor will have to look at it and price for it. Wow, I have to produce the shop drawings. That's going to cost me a bit more. I'll price for it. That's all. I hope you can start to see how the risk is okay to shift on one between the main contractor and the subcontractor. It is okay. And the other thing I'll be looking at is how you can use it for different procurement methods as well as different contractual arrangement. Procurement, by procurement method, I mean like you can use it as a subcontract for a designable contract between the designable contractor and the domestic subcontractor who's doing the work. You can use that. But also with different traditional, of course you can. Okay, as well as contractual arrangements. Example, can you use this domestic subcontract as a with quantities subcontract? Can or cannot? Answer, tak. Tak means can in Cantonese, right? So yes, you can. Can you use it as a pure lump sum subcontract? Answer, yes, you can. Can you use it for my piling work subcontractor, for instance, as a remeasurement contract? That means all the quantities are provisional. Answer, yes, you can. So the same contract can be used with different procurement methods, traditional, designable, and so on, as well as different contractual arrangements as a pure lump sum, or as a remeasurement contract, or as a with quantities subcontract. It's all good. Okay, so there you go. Pure lump sum with quantities, remeasurement, even as a schedule of rates contract. So if you're doing maintenance work, you can use this as well. And of course, the other thing is whether it really is plain language or not. That's for you to judge. Maybe I'll have a poll at the end to say, hey, do you agree that this particular subcontract is in plain language, or does it need to be made even simpler? And if it needs to be made even simpler, let me know. That will be the feedback I'm looking at. Okay. And of course, you know, a little bit on whether the drafting style is appropriate for lawyers, because lawyers, in the end, it has to be legally correct. So as long as it's legally correct, that's all good. Okay. Yeah, that's from a legal perspective, and also whether you think the structure is user-friendly or not. Now, I am going to suggest something to you. I'll propose to you the structure, which is the current form, the model terms of subcontract 2007. And I'm going to propose an even more user-friendly format, and you tell me whether you agree or not in one of the polls later. Okay. And then the language is clear, whether you can avoid dispute, that's all fine. And one or two case studies on actual projects that I have had use of through my previous association with companies in Malaysia and so on. And you all know from the flyer that you can download, so I hope you have already downloaded. And you can actually test it by clicking on here and you can download it. Okay, it's a free copy anyway. Okay, right. Now let's look at the actual contract itself. Okay, again, I'm going to pause now, and I'm going to give you an opportunity. Do you have any questions at this stage? And I'll give you about maybe 10 seconds, just to make sure that you know. Okay, and meanwhile, let me see in the chat function if there's anyone has can hear clearly. Snapshot, instruction, snapshot. Okay, yep, fine. So there's no questions for me to attend to, which is fine. And if you've got any questions, you can, as I said, feel free to interrupt me and just chip in anytime you want. Interrupt me, yeah, orally or however you want. Okay, right. So here is a contract. Now, this contract is called, look, every word, every comma in this particular contract is can be justified. And if there are any mistakes, we'll pick it up in edition 2. Every word, every comma in it, I stand by it. If there is a mistake, I take responsibility. There's a committee, of course, but I take personal responsibility and I'll make sure that it's corrected, okay? I've also got a Word version of it, which I can share, but for now, we'll use the PDF version, okay? So now let's start from the beginning. It says here, model terms of construction contract. Why does it say model terms? Because it is meant to be a model. Up to you, Mr. Main Contractor or Madam Main Contractor, you can modify it to suit your needs. Maybe you want more, even the actual standard terms as well to be in your favor. That's up to you. So people are not restricting it. Why? Because if we say this is a very fair, balanced contract, the main contractor says, I don't want balanced contract. I want something which favors me. I don't like it. I want to modify. Go ahead. You can modify it. It's in Word document as well anyway. Okay. In fact, historically, if you just Google, you'll be able to find Word document. So no problem. I'm happy to share the Word document as well, the one that you downloaded. It's a PDF. So yes, so there you go. That's why the word model was developed. Okay, it's a model. It's not the only version that you can use. Okay, and who is the contract between? Answer: contractor, subcontractor. For what? Subcontract work. Okay, that's just a year. Yeah, nice and easy. Oh, who is, well, it's a little committee, you know, Construction Industry Contracts Committee. It's called CICC. A bit cheeky because there's a famous, internationally famous in Malaysia company called CICQS Services in Berhad. But anyway, you know, this is not quite CICQS. It's just Construction Industry Contracts Committee. That's all. It's just a name. And there's a bit of a disclaimer, you know, saying, hey, look, okay, I want to just highlight to you as well this. It's just a general terms of contract. And it's generic in nature. Every subcontract, you must have your specific provision. Example, your subcontract for, let's say, I don't know, substructure works or piling works or your roofing subcontractor. Hey, of course you have to add the drawings for roof with it, right? So this is the standard terms of contract. You have to add to it the drawings, maybe specification, not the whole thing, just the relevant part, roofing. And you may have a set of preliminaries, you may have bills of quantities, and so on. I don't know. And maybe your subcontractor, you want them to take their own insurance for their work, maybe? Or as a main contractor, you take your own insurance. So there are lots of variables that you, as a main contractor and subcontractor, will have to negotiate and decide who is doing it. Insurance is an excellent example. The main contractor might say to the subcon, hey, look, don't worry about insurance. I'll cover for the whole project. So save some money. Don't go and charge me for it. You know, keep your price low. That's one way. Another way is, I'm only covering my contract sum of 10 million. Well, only for my work, which is only 8 million. Mr. Subcontractor, you take insurance for 2 million for your work. Okay, fine. So do you I hope you understand now what this statement is. By necessity, every subcontract must have its own specific provisions to suit the project. That's all. I've just given you one or two examples. So there you go. Okay. I'll give you one more example. Just throw in lots of examples. Remember, this is a very practical thing. You must be able to use this contract within this couple of hours or so. And that is this example. Okay, I'm the main contractor. Hoarding, I'll provide for the whole site, no problem. But when it comes to safety helmets and safety boots, I've only got 12 pairs. I provide for visitors. But subcon, for yours, you provide your own, maybe. So subcon, when you do the pricing, don't go and price for another 12 sets of safety boots or whatever. You know, you just price for however many you want. Okay, I hope it's all nice and clear, and that's what it is. And of course, towards the end, it's a disclaimer saying that CIDB and members of the CICC have got no liability in contract or whatever. Okay? That's just a disclaimer. Okay, and it was officially published by CIDB, of course. And as I said, the September 2006 was the first edition, and there was a reprint anyway in December because a lot of copies went out, and then the third print, but there's a note to say slight revision. So just take note, use the 2007 version. Okay, right. This part of the document is just telling you, look, CIDB shows over the last 5 years, meaning between 2012 and, 2011 and 2016, you know, there were average of 5,000 main contracts exceeding, and for every one of that, lots of domestic subcontract. That's all, okay? And then the benefits of standardizing subcontracts. Okay, very, very important. Okay, this is very, very important. Has anyone heard of the phrase, oh, subcontract is back to back lah? Anyone? You can say orally, or you can maybe type a little bit, or maybe, you know, I can do a poll, but no need lah. But, you know, has anyone heard of the phrase back to back? Anyone heard back to back? Yes or no?
Yes. Back to back basis.
Okay, good. So we have heard of what do you call back to back, right? Good. Now, okay, I want to say a few words about back to back. Okay, now that we know you've heard of what? Let me just check on the chat function. Oh, yeah. Okay. Okay. Oh, whoa. It's lots of. If the main contractor, okay, I'll come back to all provisional in a minute. Yes, yes,
Dr.
yes. Very
Naseem,
much.
back to back means don't have to pay already.
No, 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 no. Cannot do that. You cannot have a back-to-back means I'll pay you when I pay lah. Cannot. That's unlawful in Malaysia under the Construction Payment and Adjudication Act. Okay, so that's outlawed already. So you can't say back-to-back.
Contract với contract back in là
Oh, no, no, that's someone else. Just unmute yourself. Otherwise, am I co-host yet? Then I got power to unmute. Let me see.
I think he accidentally unmute himself.
Yeah, yeah, I know, I know. So, Mr. Tech Moderator, can you give me co-hosting rights so that I can unmute people as well? Okay?
You are the co-host right now, anyway.
Am I? Let me just check.
Yes, you are the co-host right now.
Okay, I am co-host, but I've got no power to unmute, to mute everyone. So that's fine.
Oh,
so I'll ask you to mute everyone. Okay, right. Okay. Okay. Muhammad Dali is asking back to back regarding payment to client. Okay. Now I am sorry. Let's get this clear. You cannot have a back-to-back contract in Malaysia or New Zealand or any of the 8 states in Australia or UK or Isle of Man or where else? Yeah, all these jurisdiction to have a provision back-to-back, meaning the main contractor says to the subcontractor, I will pay you when I'm paid. Not allowed. And that's been outlawed under the Construction Industry Payment and Adjudication Act. Okay, so that's not allowed. In the same way, you can't also say, I'll pay if I'm paid. Also not allowed. So in other words, timing of it, nope. And on the liability of it, no. So you cannot have that in Malaysia. So just to clarify that, back-to-back regarding payment, okay, it's not allowed. And I just want to clear some of the questions. Okay, someone has asked, if the main contractor does not put in the word all provisional in the BQ, but does mention in the LA the work is subject to remeasurement, which one prevails? Oh God, what an easy question, easy solution. Look, okay, I'll deal with it right now because the question has come up now. I'll deal with it because we haven't even signed the contract yet. Already got problems and all that. Okay, this is my suggestion. From today onwards, if you're using a simple standard form of subcontract like this, you already have it anyway, okay? From today onwards, whenever you get the subcontractor, because we're talking about subcontracts now, right? Whenever you have a subcontractor give you a quotation and you're going to get into a contract, I suggest prepare the contract document within 1 or 2 days. Then main con and subcon sign that. Do not use LA. No need LA. No need letter of award. Just use this, what you can see here. Yep, this document here. Add the drawings, specification, the relevant ones, maybe roofing or piling or whatever it is. Yep. What else you need? Oh, okay, if you've got a bit of a preliminaries item, you can add that. If you have a BQ, you can add that as well. Yeah. Okay. And if it's all provisional, your provisional bills of quantities is what you put in the whole document and sign. Don't have a letter of award. Don't have a letter of acceptance. Is that clear, Sam Wong? Are you clear? Don't give excuses to say, oh, I'm still printing the drawings. No need. Don't enter into a contract until you've got this done. It'll take you 1 day, maybe 2 days. If the printer is busy because COVID lockdown, make it 5 days. Don't sign your contract. Do not have a letter of award. You've just proven to me, Sam Wong, why we should not have a letter of award. You're already introducing contradictions. Don't allow that. So your whole contract is what is says here. So if you want it all provisional, your BQ is part of the contract. That's it. End of story. Nice and easy. Okay. So no contradiction in future if you use a standard form like this. Okay. So don't worry about what prevails and all that. Now, having said that, how do you deal with your past problems? Because you might have, you didn't use a standard form. You didn't use this brilliant subcontract. So BQ says all provisional. Letter of award says is subject to work done is subject to remeasurement. Oh, your question is easy. It means the same thing. All provisional means everything is remeasured. LA says subject to remeasurement is remeasurement also. So it's the same thing, so no issue. Okay, problem settled with Sam Wong, unless you've got another question. Okay, back-to-back regarding payment, not allowed. Okay, can we override the above subcontract terms? Notwithstanding the above, the maximum chargeable liquidated damage shall be 5% or whatever. You can. Look, it's not overriding the subcontract. You are free to change anything you want in the subcontract. Absolutely, you can. I'll show you where in a minute. Okay, I'll show you where in a minute. Okay, I'll show you. Okay, Huawei P9 says, oh, Huawei P9, that's a good phone. Mine is a Mate 20X, yeah, the 7.2 inch one. Really good phone. Okay, so yes, absolutely. In this contract, I'll show you in the appendices in a minute, you can limit the liquidated damage and so on. But I'm suggesting now, folks, think about this. Okay, if you're a main contractor, you may want to not have a liquidated damage clause. And I'll explain that in a minute. Okay, okay. Is the model terms of contract for subcontract work published meant for industry players to create a bespoke contract instead of standard? No, no, no. It is published to give you a standardized form which you can use exactly without changing. Nice and easy. Or if you want to change, you can also. That's all. So it's just a service for industry that CIV decided that you can all use it. Okay, one more question. What about back-to-back on the release of final retention sum? Release of final retention sum. Okay, let's get this clear. Your contract, you can have any terms that you want. Okay, now, if, for instance, you have a provision which says, I'll pay you when I'm paid or whatever, you can't. Okay, that you can't because SIPA Payment Act object doesn't allow that. But here we're talking about the timing of the release and all that. Sure, whatever you draft in your contract, you can have it. Example, I'll share with you. In this particular contract, you can have the end of the defects liability period matching with right at the end of the main contract's defect liability period. You can actually do that. That's a long way away, especially if you're a piling contractor. Or you can have it right in the beginning of the contract. So you have that flexibility. So the answer is you have that flexibility. I'll come to back in a minute, right? Okay, but there's still some more questions coming, which is good. How commonly is this being adopted thus far? The answer is as common as how you want it to be common. I don't know. You tell me. Have you used it before? If you haven't, that means it's not common. But I don't know. Somebody needs to do some sort of a survey to establish how commonly it's been used or not. I don't know. Maybe some academic institution can. Okay. And the next question from Muhammad Dali is about back-to-back. I'll come back to that in a minute. So yeah, common or not, it doesn't matter. In the end, what matters is, critically important is, if you think it's good, use it. You won't lose it, it's there. But it's a shame not to use it because it's standardized. And I want to convince you today, over the 2 hours, and perhaps next week as well, because you can all come back next week. I'll extend this because if this is the L2 series all converted to YouTube, if, I don't know, this is subject to L2, Honkit and Wailun and Tech Moderator, if they convert this into a YouTube video, sometime next week, this can be made available to anyone around the world who wants to join in on Saturday 20th, next week. So they should have already watched this video rather than me repeating all this. So then we can move to more advanced issues, okay? Now coming back then, back-to-back means subcontract cannot tie back. Okay, now the answer is this. You can have a back-to-back contract, but I'm going to give you an example of a back-to-back, which might not work. This contract is back-to-back with the main contract, which is PAM 2018. What does that mean? Well, it's back-to-back lah. Everything in the main contract, back-to-back with this subcontract. Okay, that's a really extreme example of a back-to-back lah contract, you know, just without thinking. Now imagine this. In your scope of the subcontract, I keep using the roofing example. It's nice and easy, it's a separate, or plumbing, could be whatever, okay? Now, in this contract, if you say you're lazy, you didn't draft, you didn't think about the subcontract, you simply put everything is back-to-back lah. In the main contract, when you look at it, it says all payment certificate issued by the architect, okay, for work done, this and the other. In a subcontract, you didn't bother writing anything. So who is the authorized person to prepare that payment or extension of time, for instance? Oh, architect will assess extension of time. In your domestic subcontract, contract between main con and some, I don't know, some subcon who only the main con knows, the client, architect don't even know who they are. How can you have it back to back? Because it says back to back means the architect will have to prepare the extension of time, for instance. And the subcon says, hey, Mr. Architect, this is back to back. I've read the main contract. It says architect certifies extension of time. Can you please certify this? The architect will say, what are you talking about? This has nothing to do with me. So look, my subcontract says it's back to back lah with the main contract. Main contract is PAM, 2018, and 2018 says extension of time decided by architect. Here is my claim. The architect says nothing to do with me. Do you get me? Do you get me? It is very, very clear that, you can't just back to back lah, chincha like that. Cannot. You have to think and write it. So this standard form of domestic subcontract will help you to think. You don't have to redraft anything. Just fill in the appendices, attach a drawing, attach specification, attach a BQ or prelims or whatever. That's it. No letter of award, no letter of acceptance. That's it. You've all agreed. The price is all there. The BQ has been priced by the subcon. That's the contract. That's it. Okay. So back to back means subcontract cannot type. Not to say you cannot. You can. Of course you can. But I am just highlighting to you, don't simply go and say everything is back to back lah. Doesn't work. Can't. I gave you the example. Okay. Another example. Let's say your subcontract, your domestic subcontract scope is not fully identified. You say, well, you're my subcon. To do what? Superstructure. Okay. And then you go and give the back-to-back all the drawings from the main contract. And then you give it to the subcon. Say, hey, you're my superstructure subcontractor. What? It's back-to-back, okay? Done. That's it. One page letter saying, okay, here's, and the price we have agreed, it's 2 million, okay? And it's back-to-back. For what work scope? All the superstructure. Oh, okay. When you say superstructure, what does it mean? Well, strictly speaking, there could be arguments now. Well, superstructure means everything apart from the foundation. In other words, the excluding the piling and the up to the platform level of the lowest ground floor. Okay. Anything below that is substructure. The ground floor slab and above. Well, now you're thinking, do I just from the column or including the slab and so on? So you're starting to have a little bit of ambiguity. Now the question is that what you wanted when you said it's back to back? The scope is not clearly identified, not good enough. What I suggest for good practice from today onwards, well, today is Saturday, if you're not working, never mind, from Monday onwards, make sure that you think, what is the subcontract I'm dealing with? Plumbing. I'll take out all the plumbing drawings, I'll give it to plumber, to the plumbing subcontractor and say, hey, look, this is for plumbing works. The scope is as defined in the scope for plumbing works. It's not the whole thing. Of course, I can give you a copy of a blank copy maybe of the unpriced copy of the main contract. So you know roughly what I'm going through, how hard a job I'm suffering with the client. But your scope is plumbing. Here is the drawing. Here's the relevant part of the specification. Or if you're lazy, you just chuck the whole specification and say you look it up like the plumbing section. That's being lazy, but it's okay. It's okay. Maybe, it's not so bad because the scope is defined. The scope is plumbing as defined in these drawings. And then, the contract terms is, I'm going to share today. Okay. So that's the way you would do. So you can have it back to back by referring to the main contract, but make sure that you don't just simply, say, it's all back to back lah. Can't. You have to think what it is that you want to make back to back. Example, in the main contract, it says that liquidated damage is 1 million per day for the main contract. You can tell the subcontractor, friend, I've given you a copy of the main contract. Have a look at it. Study it carefully. I know your scope is only, let's say, the last thing is what? Maybe the final painting of the whole house, final touch-up painting and putting up the chandelier. Okay. Now, so now that you have finished your scope is the domestic subcontractor scope is to do the final finishing and some chandelier work. That's the very last activity, let's say. Okay. And then but you still say it is and then you have the standard terms here, and then you say, but for your information, my main contract is based on PAM 2018, and here's the information. And in there you're saying, okay, the main contractor's liquidated damage amount is 1 million per day. Okay, 1 million per day. So that is drawing attention to the subcontractor. Friend, please don't be late. Because if you are late, because yours is a critical activity, the very last activity, if you're late by 1 day, I know your contract sum is only 100,000, but if you're late by 1 day, I'm late to the client 1 day, that is 1 million liquidated damage per day. Warning. So for that reason, you do attach the main contract for information. But so in that sense, it is back to back. You're highlighting the head contract, the main contract, and so on. No problem. But I want to think what it is that you're putting in the subcontract. The scope, for instance, limited. The specification, ideally, you limit it to whatever it is that you're discussing. The scope is, okay? And don't just simply everything is back to back lah. Okay. Okay, let's have a look at any more questions. Could we insert late payment interest charges? All certified remain unpaid shall be subject to extra financial. Sir Ivanhoe. Wow, this one sounds like the Sir Ivan. Anyway, no, not Sir, Surveyor Ivan. You can put in a main contract, subcontract, any kind of contract in Malaysia, late payment for interest on late payment, absolutely perfectly legitimate, no problem. Okay, and you've decided to put 8%. Sounds a bit high. Doesn't matter. Sure, no problem. So from the date when the payment amount is due under the certificate, every day late, of course you can, no problem. It's a free. The concept is called freedom to contract. Okay, you can. And then thanks a minute. Suggest you create a poll to survey the adoption. Oh, okay. Yeah, but okay. I can do a poll. I think nobody has been using. Well, okay, we can do that. Yeah, yeah. Maybe we'll do that. Yeah, good. So that I can give feedback to CIDB to say, what are you guys doing? We had roadshows. You see, to be fair to CIDB, we had roadshows. I have done roadshows on these model terms in, I think, 2007 or 2008. We went to Kuantan, Alostar, Taiping, Melaka, Johor. We didn't do it in KL. We did in Shah Alam instead, just for a bit of a change. We did in Kuantan, and I'm sure we did it in Kota Baru, maybe, I can't remember. Maybe Kuala Terengganu, we missed it. And I'm sure Sabah Sarawak. We've done roadshows and roadshows and roadshows. But people were not aware. Okay, I'm gonna do a poll now, but my question is going to be, how many of you are aware of it first? So my first question is, where's my poll thing? No, you go and unmute yourself. Okay, so my statement is, okay, do I want a yes or no, or do you want a true or false? My question is, have you heard, oh, sorry, okay, the question is, I have not heard about this contract before. Okay, I have not heard of the STCC, sorry, not STCC. I have not heard of this model terms before this flyer came out from the L2 series. Okay, I'm going to launch the poll. So I repeat, I know, better make it positive. Like
it's 3:30.
I have heard about the model terms before this, this flyer came out. I have heard about the model terms, yes or no. So if you have heard about it before, that means before 2 weeks ago, whatever, you put yes. If no, I never heard of it before, you put no. So have you heard about it or have you not heard about it? If you have heard about it before, before 3 weeks ago, whatever, then you say, yes, I heard about it. If you've never heard about it, you put, no, I haven't heard about it. Okay, keep voting. Or Can't be don't know. You've either heard about it or you haven't heard. So if don't know means don't know whether I heard about it or not. Okay, never mind. We give you a chance. You're sitting on the fence. That's okay. So I have heard about it, yes, or no, I haven't heard about it before this seminar. You would put no. Okay. I normally would wait until we get at least 80% have voted. It's been 45 seconds since I've activated the poll. So come on, a few more. I'm still waiting. Come on. It's an easy question. I have heard about the model terms before the L2 series? Yes or no? So if no means never heard about it before. Yes means yes, I heard about it before. Okay. Come on, a few more. 72%. Yeah. 74%. Yes. I have heard about it or not. And this, I'm going to take a snapshot of the response because I am going to share this with CIDBA and say, hey, look, it's time for a roadshow again. Maybe with the second edition. There you go. Okay. So I repeat the question. We are now 78% respondents. We've touched 80%. Okay, good. I am going to end the poll shortly, but if you still want, I repeat the question. I have heard about the model terms before the L2 series. Yes or no? Anyone else wants to vote? If not, I'm going to close the poll in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, end the poll. And I am going to share the results with everyone. And the results show, shockingly, 46% have never even heard about the model terms. CRDB, time to do something. Not marketing it enough, okay? And 44% said, nope, never heard. 46% said, yes, they've heard. And about 10% don't know. That's fine, okay? Can I ask Huawei 9 whether to do a poll about the adoption of the model term? Is it worth doing that poll as well again? Yes or no? Yes or no? Do we need to know whether anyone has adopted it? Might be interesting, I suppose. Yeah, should I? Okay, so it won't take long. We'll do a quick one. Got a lot to cover. Is this okay, the question is, I have used the model terms before. Yes or no? I have used the model term of subcontract 2007. Yes or no? I suspect the answer is no. Because if half of you are not even aware of it, I don't know who would have used it. Okay. Come on, quick. I've got a lot to cover. 58%. Anyone else? Okay, 60, 62. I've used the model terms before, or I have never used the model term. So yes or no? Come on. I need another maybe 3 or 4 responses. It's 70% now, which is good enough. I can end the poll. I'll give you 8, 7, 6, 5. I've used it before. Yes or no? Okay, never mind. 76%. Okay, let me share the results. 92% of you have never used it before. And 3% used it before. There you go. So that's where we stand. Okay. And one of you responded here as well. No, you haven't used it. Okay, right. I'm going to close that. And I'm going to jump back. So we're clear about standalone. So this is a standalone. This is not drafted in such a way that it's back-to-back with PAM or JKR or IEM or whatever. You can use it across any of the main contracts. Yeah, you can use it across any. Okay, one of you, how did you know about this session? And never mind. I'm in New Zealand, so I use the New Zealand standard contracts, right? And for your information, Keith, next week on Saturday, we will have an extension of this session where I'll be looking at an international aspect where this model terms, which has been drafted in Malaysia, I'm going to share with you a draft of an international version. It's actually modified to a New Zealand version, which was used in New Zealand by one of my students. And she I've worked with her, developed a subcontract for New Zealand use, and then I'm going to modify that to remove the reference to New Zealand dollars and come up with something which can be used anywhere in the world. Okay, so the currency will be flexible and so on. So it'll be interesting. Okay, let's move on. Oh, I didn't realize there was some from New Zealand as well. I thought I hadn't circulated it yet. I was going to circulate for next week. Okay, now there was a committee that drafted this. So those are some of the people. And this particular subcontract was endorsed by ACEM, Association of Consulting Engineers, DBK, the local authority in Kuala Lumpur, the Public Works Department, JKR. So I'll make sure it's in English so that, because if you've got people who don't speak Malay or Malaysian, you know, speak proper English, are familiar with it. The Aircon and Refrigeration Association, Fire Protection, LIV, Master Builders, the Malay Contractors Association, PAM, architects here, Real Estate Housing Developers Association, Chartered Institute of Building Malaysia, Electronics, IEM, Institution Engineers, ISM, and so on. Okay, so yeah, it's endorsed by everyone. Okay, how would you actually use this contract? And I repeat, in case some of you started late, anytime you want to interrupt me, just unmute yourself, stop me, or type in the chat function, and I'll try and look out for it in case you've got questions and so on. Okay, so what is this? Agreement in terms of construction contract for subcontract works between, this is easy, right? So you put in your, if you're a main contractor, you just type in your name here. And if you're a subcontractor, you type in your name here. Short title of subcontract, don't worry about the exact detail name. Just say subcontract for plumbing works for, you know, and then this is the overall project, you know, 2-story house or 40-story office block in Jalan Tunku Abdul Rahman. That's it, okay? And your short title of subcontract, just a short title. You can say electrical works or plumbing works or whatever. So it's nice and easy. And it says comprising part of, okay? Okay, now here comes the structure first of all. The structure of this contract. Now, tell me if I need to make this a little bit bigger in terms of the font or whatever, in terms of the view, but otherwise, I assume that you can see it. If you can't see clearly, you want me to make it bigger, let me know. Otherwise, silence means you're happy with what I'm doing. Now, this particular contract drafted 14 years ago, in 2006, and then it was published in a slightly revised format in 2007, it's 13 years ago, has got 3 parts. Part A is called agreement, okay? 10, 12 items, I'll show you what it is in a minute. Part B is the actual terms of the contract, which has got a clause called general obligations, a clause called administration. You know, the general obligation basically saying the contractors and subcons general obligations, okay? And then the administration, more to do with how you administer the instructions and variations, or as it calls, changes to the work and so on. Clause 3 is all the time obligations. When you start the work, the program, progress, date for completion, and sectional commencement and completion and so on, yeah? Yeah, extension of time, practical completion and compensation, which is a liquidated damage clause potentially or whatever. Okay, it could be liquidated damage or it could be general damages as well. Okay, and then there's a clause on payment. Okay, this is payment from the main contractor to the subcontractor. By the way, since there's someone from New Zealand as well, in New Zealand we call it head contractor and subcontractor, but the rest of the world calls it main contractor. So I've stuck to main contract, but same thing: head contract, main contract, principal contractor, whatever it is. Okay, so payment clauses. And then there's a clause on quality, health, safety, environment issues. And then there's a clause on termination primarily. And then there's a clause on dispute resolution. That's the whole contract or subcontract. Okay. And then part C are the variables. You know, you fill in the blanks. That's what it is. So I repeat, the structure of this is part A is the agreement, the articles of agreement, if you want. Okay. Part B are the actual terms, and part C is the fill in the blanks. Okay, right. Are we ready to look at the first part then? I'm going to whiz through this because it's relatively simple and straightforward because the language is nice and easy. This is a construction contract between a contractor and subcontractor for subcontract work, and the date is stated in C1, which is the appendices. Remember? C, fine. Doesn't say much. Fine. It's a construction contract between main con and subcon. Done. Okay. Now, the minute you say this is a construction contract between contractor and subcontractor, wow, today in 2020, we have in New Zealand the Construction Contracts Act 2002, amended in 2015. In Malaysia, we got the Construction Industry Payment and Adjudication Act 2012. Oh, this is a construction contract. It is in writing. Therefore, if you enter into a contract like this, you are picked up by the adjudication provisions and the whole act in Malaysia. Fine, good. Who are the parties to this contract? Answer: contractor and subcontractor. Their signatures confirming the agreement, witnesses or organization names are detailed in C2. There you go. So if you look at C2, it's got their names and signature and witness and everything else. Done. That's all. So part A basically is just well, it's the articles of agreement, if you want. And then contract administrator, who is this or what is this? The contract administrator administers this contract. The contract administrator's name and details are in C3. Ah, okay. So in C3, you just chuck in the name. Now, at this point, before I get a flurry of questions, let me deal with this right now. Okay, who is this creature, contract administrator? The answer is, do you remember earlier I said about this being a back-to-back contract? Sorry, this is not a back-to-back, this is a standalone contract. You can make it back-to-back, but be careful when you make it back-to-back. For instance, if you make this back-to-back with, say, FIDIC, or in New Zealand, NZS 3910, or in Malaysia, the PAM 2018 contract, or IEM, or the JKR contract, Public Works Department, PWD contract and all that. If you make it back-to-back, those main contracts have got some named person who administers the contract, the engineer to the contract, if you want, the architect under the architect's contract, and so on. They are administering the main contract. They've got nothing to do with this subcontract because this is a domestic subcontract. I repeat, domestic means the main contractors own subcontractors that he or she chose. So it's nothing to do with the architect and the main contract. The architect doesn't want to know anything about this contract. So, but this contract still needs to be administered. Somebody needs to administer this. Who? Well, I've decided to call this the contract administrator, whoever it is. And you fill in the blanks in Appendix C to say who is the contract administrator. So who could be the contract administrator? The one person that the person is not going to be is the architect or the engineer under the main contract. Why not? Because they're not paid to do all this domestic subcontract. It's nothing to do with them. Okay, so now you're left with either you can engage someone independent, or most cases, what's going to happen is, who is going to administer the subcontract? Answer, typically, it's going to be the main contractors, maybe contract manager, or maybe project manager, or maybe the the construction manager, or maybe the director, or I don't know, someone. Okay, so the person who will be named as a contract administrator is, you just name someone between the main contractor and the subcontractor. Normally, it'll be someone from the main contractor's organization. It could be the, as I said, contract manager or project manager or whatever. So you just put their name. Now, it's very important because that person is the one who is going to assess extension of time, who is going to decide practical completion, who is going to certify lots of things, everything to do with this contract. It is that person who is going to administrate. Warning. And let me just ask, I knew this question was going to come. Huawei P9 says to everyone, if the main contractor is the contract administrator, I didn't say main contractor, I said a person named from the main contractor's organization, okay? Will it cause a conflict of interest? The answer is this. Let me bring you one step back. Under the PAM contract, under the JKR contract, Public Works Department contract, under the FIDIC contract, under the 3910 contract, this creature who administers it is called what? Architect, engineer, whatever, right? Yeah. Who engages them? Client. In some government or public works department even, yeah, or SEDC or state governments, okay, or all those what do you call it, GLCs, government linked companies, right? Often the contract administrator in the main contract is who? It is the one of the staff of the client organization, right? Same question. Will it cause a conflict of interest? The answer is, I'll come to that in a minute. So same question. In the same way, that engineer or the architect was engaged by the client, right? Is there a conflict of interest? Same question. So the same question that I'm asking you right now is the same question that can be asked of the main contract. That engineer, that architect, that GLC's director, or whatever it is, same question. Is there a conflict of interest? Answer is, in whether there is a conflict of interest or not, it is not wrong for the person who is administering the contract to be the architect, the engineer, whatever, in the main contract. In the same way, under the subcontract, it is not wrong to put a contract administrator to be from the main contractor's organization. It is not wrong. So no problem about it being legally wrong or correct. No problem. So you can put the contractor's person as a contract administrator. The question now then is this. When they exercise their duties, they will have to have two hats. One as an agent of the client, if it's a main contract, agent of the contractor as in the subcontract. When it's an agency function, they look after the best interest of the contractor or the client. But they also have another role, that is, when it comes to certification functions, they have to be fair, impartial. That is their duty, to be impartial. So whether or not there's a conflict of interest is irrelevant. You can still name them, but when it comes to certification functions, that person must act fairly between the main contractor and the subcontractor. Exactly like when you are certifying extension of time, for instance, the main contract between the client and the contractor, you must act fairly and impartially when deciding, even though you are engaged by the client, even though your fee is paid by the client, even though your client says, oh, you know, you want the next job, better to be nice to me, said the client. No, 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 no. You have a duty to act impartially. Same situation here. Yes, somebody needs to administrate, otherwise the contract won't work. So it's okay. Put the main contractor's contract administrator, name a person, and that person will administrate. Okay? So the two roles, I repeat, right? They have to act impartially when it comes to certification, but at the same time, they have to put on the other hat and act in favor of the contractor whenever they're dealing with, like, say, instructions to do some variation. So, okay. And then client is just a bit of information, who they are, you know, the client in the ultimate project anyway, between the main contractor and the client. Overall project is the contract between the contractor and the client. It's just called overall project. That's just a bit of a definition. Okay. And in C5, you have the overall project title. You know, this is a 40-story building. And then the subcontract is, this is for roofing work, so plumbing or whatever. And then the subcontracts work, contractors work is, what is the scope of the subcontractors work? This contract as a whole sets out the full scope. A short title is in C6. And it says here, this contract is independent of the contract between the contractor and the client, except for provisions that are specifically incorporated. So, for instance, the appendices to my main contract, I might attach it to this subcontract so that you know, Mr. Subcontractor, what my liability, what my insurance, what my liability for liquidated damage, for instance, is. So maybe I'll just take that page and put here. Okay, right. Now comes a very, 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 very important and powerful, now let me just see, is there any chat function? Yep, okay, I think I've answered all the questions so far. Good. Now, here comes the crux, which will deal with the letter of award or agreement or whatever it is, or letter of acceptance that someone asked the question earlier. The following documents form this contract. A, we just saw. This is part A. Okay. What else? Part B, the terms of the contract, forms part of the contract. Good. Part C is that appendix. Remember, we're going to fill in the blanks. How much liquidated damage? How much is the payment due date within how many days? And how long is the defects liability period and so on. Yep. Okay. All that is in the appendix. It's called part C. And then here's the interesting bit. Breakdown of works and prices, if any. If you don't attach something, then that doesn't form part of the contract. Bills of quantities, by the way, bills of quantities is a terminology used in the whole world, except in New Zealand. In New Zealand, we call it schedule of quantities. But even that is changing because we're using a standard method measurement between Australia and New Zealand. And the word used is bills of quantities. Okay. Now, what is it? It's a schedule of quantities with the quantities and the rates and so on that the contractor fills in. Now, so if you want to use this subcontract as a with quantities, you just attach the BQ to this document. Okay, and if you've got a schedule of rates contract, if you want to use this contract, subcontract as a schedule of rates, you attach a schedule of rates. No need for bills of quantities, no need for anything else. It's just a schedule of rates contract. So maintenance contract, you can use this. Wow, that's pretty powerful. One contract, you can use it as a pure lump sum, where you just have a breakdown of works and prices, substructure, superstructure, whatever. No BQ, okay? It would be nice to have a schedule of rates for variation purposes, and drawings. Again, if it's a schedule of rates contract, you might not have any drawings at all. Use it, no worries. Specification and other documents. Now, if you are going to start incorporating other documents, this is where you have an opportunity to attach it in your in C7, in the appendices. So you might, for instance, put in, I hope you don't, you might put in a letter of acceptance. Oh God, don't do that, because there's no reason to have a letter of acceptance. Just sign this contract, attach all the documents, sign. That's it. You don't need a letter of acceptance or letter of award and whatever. But other documents could be, I'm just thinking, what could it be? Oh yeah, I can imagine. You might want to extract the appendices to the main contract as one of the attachments in C7. Will you attach the program as part of the contract document? Answer, absolutely no. You do not attach the program as part of the contract document. You do have to provide a program as a document for you to monitor, but you don't attach the program as part of the contract document. Because if you do that, what's going to happen? You now have a situation where every activity, the thousands of activities in your program, is going to be part of your contract document, and that's not good for the main contractor, it's not good for the subcontractor. So normally, if you look at any published standard forms of construction contract in Malaysia, around the world really, the program is a requirement for you to produce, but it is not defined as forming part of the contract document. Now, this one, by the way, all my students doing both the master's program as well as the construction law paper in the final year of the undergraduate should know this, because this is so fundamental. And that's probably going to come out in the exam on the 23rd or 25th of June. I'm only saying this because it's so critically important. This is basic stuff, okay? And you'll be surprised. Many people in industry don't realize that. So, okay. Now, so what is A? Date for starting the work. So subcontractor must start the work on the date stated in C8. There you go. Okay. Oh, look at that. Look at this. In subcontracts, sometimes you don't know when the starting date is going to be. And look at what it says here. If a date is not stated, the contract administrator must inform the subcontractor of the date for starting the work in writing. Right. Wow. So suddenly here, you have a little bit of flexibility. Okay. Just in case you don't know yet, it's okay. You've got the contract, Mr. Madam Subcontractor, you're supposed to do the works. What's the date? The answer is, well, if it's not stated in C8, the contract administrator must inform, when to start. Okay. And when is the completion date? Not later than the date stated in C9. Okay. And that, of course, this may be adjusted according to provisions in this contract. Now, I think I saw a chat. Let me just see. Again, work program is not part of the contract. The answer is a program should not form part of the contract documents. I repeat, the program should not form part of the contract documents, exactly like in PAN, exactly like in all the other published standard forms of contract. In the same way, exactly like in this subcontract. I repeat, the program does not form part of the contract documents of the subcontract. However, the program is a requirement under the contract for you to produce. You must produce the program. For what? For monitoring purposes, for assessing extension of time. You produce the program, but it's not part of the contract document bound as a contract document. Why? Because if you do include it as part of the contract document, that program becomes binding. Every activity becomes binding. 1 day late, breach. Or the minute it's slightly late by 1 day, the whole program, you need to have a version 2, version 3, version 4, version 5, version 100. So you're forever not having a program, a contract program. It's always revised. So no, yeah. So okay, good. I think you're happy with that. Good. Price for the work. Okay, now the next thing is this. The price for the work is stated in C10. This is a sum payable by the contractor to subcontractor. And then it says here, if the price is not stated, the contract administrator must calculate the price based on the breakdown of works prices. If there is no breakdown, calculate based on using the rates in the BQ. Do you know why this clause is here? The answer is this. This clause is so powerful. It gives the main con and subcon to have a contract based on a sum stated here, lump sum. Or it can be calculated based on a breakdown of works and prices, like in a lump sum with just sections. Or it can be used, calculated based on BQ. So in other words, no, for instance, if you don't have schedule rates, then you would use that, okay? Or you can be used as a schedule rates contract. So no quantities, no lump sum, but you use a schedule rates. But if there are none still, no schedule rate, no BQ, no nothing, then finally, the contract administrator must pay this, must certify payment for the subcontractor based on a fair market rate. So, wow, this contract can be used even when you don't have a schedule rate, you don't have BQ, you don't have nothing. Just, hey, look, this is the work you're going to be doing. Give them the scope and use fair market rates to work it out. It is extremely flexible. I cannot emphasize that. And of course, this contract, singular and plural and all that, law governing. Now, the reason why I had drafted this way earlier, because in my mind then was, this is not a Malaysian contract. This contract should be able to be used anywhere in the world, was my intention originally. So I just put that so that if it's going to be used in, well, at that time, I wasn't even in New Zealand then, 2006, 2007. That was about the time when we moved, but it was, at that time, we hadn't moved permanently to New Zealand yet. Or I hadn't, the family was in the process. So my thought was it can be used for contracts anywhere in the world, okay? Now, I want to now, since you've done section A and it's been referring to section C, rather than doing the clauses from section B, I want to jump straight to section C to show you what are the blanks that you probably were filling. Okay, this is all B. Okay, these are the clauses of the contract. The was it 7 or 8 clauses? Okay, let's move straight to 6 and 7. Okay, 7 is dispute resolution. Okay, yep. Okay, dispute resolution, and there you go. Still not there. Okay, this is the appendix. Remember, we looked at the A. A refers to C. Remember, there's no multiple cross-referencing. Okay, it's just A and C. Do you remember what we said just now? A1, date. Just put the date. No need to say on the date first hereunto set forth above. Forget it. Just put the date of the contract. Okay. And then A, what else here? Oh, signature. All right. Yeah. Okay. Sign. Contractor sign. Subcontractor sign. Name of the person who signed. Sign. Sign. Identification card or passport number. Well, in Malaysia, we have an identity card. In New Zealand, we don't have an identity card. Normally, we would say driver's license or passport. Not everyone's got a passport in New Zealand. So normally, it would be driver's license. I'm just wondering, what happens if you don't have a driver's license and you don't have a passport in New Zealand? What would you do? You might have to use a birth certificate. I don't know, whatever. Okay, because in New Zealand, there's no such thing as an IC. Okay. Designation in the organization. Okay, name of the organization, address for correspondence. I just want to highlight a small thing here. It's a petty thing. Name of organization is 3 words. It's passive. A better way would be organization name. Save 1 word. Every word counts. Okay. Instead of address for correspondence, it should better read correspondence address.
It's
Same
4
thing.
o'clock.
Okay, so there you go. And then telephone number, fax number, email, signature, witness, blah, 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 blah. Okay, yeah. It's all basic stuff, very easy. Tell me if this is too easy. Just fill in the blanks. It's really easy. Contract administrator's detail, name of organization, address for correspondence, telephone, fax, email. It's quite easy. Okay. Oh gosh, client's details, name, address, telephone, fax, email. So it's, wow, if this is how easy contracts are, now everybody can administer construction contract. Now we're coming somewhere. Short title of the overall project, which that's just a short title of the overall project, that's all. Okay. And then short title of the subcontractors work. Okay, just describe it. Other documents, apart from those already listed, which form this contract. This is where, hopefully you don't do it. You don't need a letter of acceptance. You don't need a letter of award. If you just sign this contract anyway, why do you need a letter of award, a letter of acceptance? You don't need, just sign this. Attach the drawings, attach the specification, done. Just sign this, no need. Okay. Other documents that might form, here where you can list it, extract of appendix from the main contract. Okay, you can attach it here, maybe. Okay. Oh, okay. Let me just deal with a question at this point. I'm sorry, I hope I'm not breaking up the flow, but let's just look at the question. And the good that the question is to everyone, so everyone can see the question. The question is, if the subcontract is based on lump sum, but the main contract is based on BQ with quantities, is it a contradiction on certification payment if comes in dispute? Usually main com being late to certify lump sum. Okay, folks. Good question. It doesn't matter what the main contract says. The main contract can be lump sum, main contract can be schedule of rates, main contract can be lump sum with quantities, main contract can be remeasurement contract. It doesn't matter what the main contract says. What matters in this subcontract is what this subcontract says. So you can have a situation where in the main contract, you have a pure lump sum, 10 million, design and build, turnkey contract. But in the subcontract for roofing is with quantities. You have quantities and you pay the contractor, subcontractor based on that. That's it. You can have a remeasurement in the subcontract, but main contract might be a lump sum, whatever. It doesn't matter. In the main contract, maybe you have entirely a cost plus contract. You can have an entirely with quantities contract. That's your contract. It's up to you. You want to have a fixed lump sum with your subcontractor for, say, the painting works, you can go ahead and do it. You don't need to have it sort of back to back. Get it? So you can choose to do whatever you want. All you have to do is just think, in my main contract, I've got a pure lump sum contract, no quantities. So when I don't have quantities, I, as a main contractor, have to finish all the work according to drawings and specification. In my subcontract, do I really want to give the BQ? Nah, I think I'm going to say, hey, Mr. Subcontractor or Madam Subcontractor, for the roofing works, here are the drawings. Let's agree on a lump sum basis. I want that, just so that I don't have to measure it or whatever. So you can do that if you want. That is basically making it back to back, but you don't have to. You can have a lump sum, the head contract, the main contract, and with quantities. You can have anything. Remember, this is a standalone subcontract. It doesn't have to be matching with the main contract. Okay, I hope I've answered Muhammad Dali's question. Okay, now this one is interesting. This one says, date for starting the works. Why is there a date for starting the works? So many lines? Can there just be one line? Answer, well, even for a subcontract, this is done so flexibly that you might have sectional possession or completion dates. So you may have multiple dates for starting the work, multiple dates for completing the work. You might have, hey, you can even use this contract as a total subcontract. Everything is subcontracted. So you could do that as well. That's why we've got multiple lines. And then how much? You have a price there. Remember, if you don't state a price in here, A10 just now, remember we said A10, I read out to you in A10, right? It says, if you don't state a price, then the contract administrator must use the BQ times the quantities as measured. If you don't have a bill of quantities, you don't measure it, you use ultimately fair market rate, okay, and so on. So it's flexible if you don't have a lump sum price, or if you don't want to have a lump sum price. Now comes the law governing this contract. Okay, it's there. Oh dear. What happens if you did not fill in this blank? The answer, look at the D4. If not stated, the law where the project is. Oh, okay, yeah, fine. So if the project is in Kota Baru, or in Kuala Lumpur, or in Johor, or if this is used internationally, it's in Papua New Guinea, what law governs this contract? Answer, assuming you don't fill in, then it will be Papua New Guinean law. There you go, done. See how flexible this can be. Okay, right, next. Date or period provided for issuing the final completion certificate. Ah, this is interesting. There is a provision for final completion certificate to be issued. Now, you can either state a date, okay, it says here, state the date when final completion certificate needs to be issued, or you can state a period, 4 months from that period. And it says here, if not stated, 12 months from the date the subcontractor completes the work as stated in the practical completion certificate. Right. So that's a default. Why is it a little bit different here? Because you may want to have a provision. Imagine this, you're a subcontractor for piling works. Your work is done in January through to end of February. The overall project is from January to December. Now, when should your defects liability period finish as far as the piling works subcontractor is concerned? Answer, well, you have a choice now. Either 3 months, 6 months, 12 months from the end of February 2020. So it finishes at the end of, well, whenever it is. If it starts 1st February, then 31st of January 2021. That's 12 months from you when you finished your work. However, it may be possible that you may want to have a defects liability period for the subcontractor to run, not from when the subcontractor finished the work in February, but from December 31st, because your defect liability period is from end of December through to December 2021. So if you want that, say it here. And Mr. or Madam subcontractor, don't say it's, oh, that's unfair, 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 because my work is substructure and all that. Don't say unfair. Just price for the longer duration of defects liability period. That's all. Because you have to think, you have to be fair to the main contractor as well, because the main contractor, what happens if, say, your defect liability period is finished, but their defect liability period is up to December next year, and yet yours finished already by end of February. So what are they going to do? They have to pick it up. So price for it. So don't say it's unfair. There's no such thing. Okay. Well, it is a bit burdensome for you to give a 2-year effectively defect liability period, but price for it. Okay? And don't say, oh, if I price for it, I won't get the job. Well, that's a risk you have to take, or whether you're prepared to take it or not. Okay. Okay. Now this is very important. Observe this. Financial compensation for delay by the subcontractor, pre-specified as liquidated damages, if any. So in this subcontract, you can have a liquidated damage amount if you want. My preference is do not put in a liquidated damage amount. I'll explain why in a minute. If you do not put an amount, if not stated here or anywhere else in this contract, do you know why I put that? Anywhere else in this contract? Because it might be in the BQ, bills of quantities, in the preliminary section. The liquidated damage is $4,000, 4,000 ringgit per day. Might be there. So if it is there, that is valid as well. Because you didn't put it there. If it says here, it is not stated here or anywhere else in the contract, okay, then the contract administrator must assess and certify in payment certificate a reasonable amount of compensation for direct financial loss and expense incurred by the contractor due to the subcontractor's delay. That, in law, effectively is a general damages clause. Another name for general damages, unliquidated damage clause. So whatever the main contractor can has actually suffered, the contract administrator assesses it and certifies the amount. Okay, so this is a unliquidated damage. or another word for it is general damages that the contract administrator will assess and certify in a payment certificate for administrative purposes. Okay, and what then happens is, if say the subcontractor decides to challenge it and say, "Whoa, that's too much, Mr. Contract Administrator. Oh, I disagree with you," and all that. Well, then that can be the subject of a dispute, which can go to negotiation, which can go to mediation. It can also go to adjudication, because this is a written contract. Okay, for an adjudicator or mediator. Mediator won't be deciding anything, but to help parties resolve amicably. But if you want a binding decisions, it can go to adjudication or arbitration for an adjudicator or arbitrator to assess and amend what the contract administrator had assessed to be the actual a reasonable amount of compensation for direct financial loss and expense. Okay, I hope you are clear on that. I'm happy for you to interrupt me now, because this is a very, very, very important point. Okay, let me explain to you. Oh, I need to deal with one of the questions as well. Right. Why? Why did I say, quite frankly, I prefer if you don't put in liquidated damage? Why? Imagine this scenario. Main contract, 10 million. Liquidated damage, 100,000 ringgit per day, $100,000 per day, whatever. Subcontract for, I don't know, maybe the very last activity, maybe I don't know, some finishing works, okay? Final touch-up works and all that. $50,000 contract, 50,000 ringgit contract. Now, for that subcontract, remember, in the main contract, liquidated damage was 100,000 ringgit per day. Contract sum 10 million. In the subcontract, the definition of liquidated damage is a genuine pre-estimate of the likely loss. So, that being the case, in your subcontract, 50,000 ringgit subcontract, that's a subcontract sum. What should be the amount you put as liquidated damage? Every day, assuming the activity is a critical activity, right? And it's a last activity. Every day, the subcontractor causes delay to the main contractor. How much does the main contractor suffer? Answer, 100,000 per day. So are you going to put 100,000 ringgit in this subcontract? Strictly speaking, that is a genuine pre-estimate of the likely loss. That's a liquidated damage. Because as a main contractor, I have to pay the client 100,000 ringgit every day. So surely, if you are on a critical activity of my program and you are going to cause me a delay of 1 day, I'm entitled to recover liquidated damage from you of 100,000 because I'll have to pay the client, assuming it's a critical activity. Okay. So surely I'm entitled to do that. The answer is absolutely yes. You can do that. You absolutely can do that. In fact, can I add some more? The amount of liquidated damage in the subcontract potentially could be a little bit more than 100,000. Why? Because apart from that, I have to use my guys on site, girls on site to sort out the various things. So it's maybe 105,000 maybe ringgit per day, because I have to now rearrange my stuff and accelerate or whatever it is, So that being the case, if you really want to put liquidated damage, it could even be more. Wow. And yet my contract's under 50,000. Whoever defined the liquidated damage to be associated with a contract sum? Nonsense. It is nothing to do with a contract sum or subcontract sum. A liquidated damage, by law, the definition is a genuine pre-estimate of the likely loss. That's it. Nothing to do with the contract sum. I know some people use a formula and all that. Forget it. We're talking about the legal definition of a liquidated damage amount. Okay? That's what it is. So it could even be more. Now, personally, however, having said that, what if the amount that you've stated is, too silly, and it wasn't a critical activity, and there were 15 subcontractors, and that particular contractor only accounted for maybe 10% of the delay. Anyway, it's not the whole 100%, in the last activity and critical path and all that. So if it's only 10%, so the amount is going to be dependent. So don't go and put in a liquidated damage amount. On the other hand, if you go and put a liquidated damage of 200 ringgit per day, well, the contract sum is only 50,000. I'm going to put 200 per day. Then you, Mr. or Madam Main Contractor, you're paying the client 100,000, assuming it's a critical activity, and you only recover 200 ringgit. Are you okay with that? That doesn't make sense either. My preference is leave this blank so that when a delay happens, and if it's caused by any of the subcontractors, many subcontractors, you recover from them the actual amount as proven that subcontractor A, you cost 20 ringgit. Subcontractor B, you cost 1,400 ringgit. Subcontractor B, so you're going to recover from that. And the total, perhaps, assuming you as a main contractor was zero fault, you'll recover about 100, 110,000 from all the subcontractors. You can't double recover, but collectively, you know, that's how you'd recover. So personally, no need to leave it blank. You don't have to edit this clause, you know, just leave it blank and it'll automatically work by itself. Okay. Now, let me just see. I thought I saw a question creeping up there. Let me just see what the chat function is. Piling works up, how to fix defects liability period. Okay. How to fix a defect liability period. Okay. So if it's a piling works, assuming you have a defects liability period or whatever. Okay. I think the question is about how do you fix how do you decide the defect liability period, or how do you fix the defects? Fixing the defects is easy. I mean, if the piling works is done wrong at any time, you can get the subcontractor, excuse me, it doesn't comply with drawings, is not set properly or whatever. You just ask them, and the solution might be you may have to have extra piles to fix it or whatever. So that's how you fix it. But how do you decide the defects liability period? Answer, you can either, according to this contract, you're entirely flexible. You can either say February 28 or 29 this year, finish. So you can fix it at 3 months, you can fix it at 6 months, you can fix it at 1 year, or you can fix it at to expire 12 months after the main contractor's end of defects liability period. Those were the words that I showed you earlier in appendix A and B. Sorry, A and C. Okay, so you could do that all the way to cover yourself. Of course, if it's a later item, like say the finishes and all that, the defect liability period for a finishing trade is easy. It's pretty much when they finish, main contractor finish. So the defect liability period is sort of, yeah, it is back to back, but basically you state how long it is. Okay. Okay. Now let's look. What else do we have? Time for payment. Okay, you must pay not later than how many days from the date of a payment certificate, and that's a default. If not stated, then 30 days from the date of payment certificate. Okay. Materials delivered to the project site to be included. Okay, this is incorporation of payment for materials delivered to site. The normal things, yeah. Oh, look, it's got materials stored outside the project site to be included as well. Okay, there you go. But the default is 0%. So you do not get paid materials off-site as a default. So if you want materials off-site to be included, you have to type this in. Okay. Retention percentage is not stated 5% of the sum, okay, of whatever is stated in the payment. And then, oh, okay. And then mediator, okay, if not stated, CEO of or other authorized person. You see, if you just put the CEO, and if the CEO has resigned, and then there is no CEO because the CEO is an interim person or no CEO, you can't appoint or recommend a mediator. So that's why we put here, or other authorized person from CIDB, done. So before the position of the CEO leaves, you know, you just make sure you authorize someone within CIDB to do this. And this is the current dilemma in Malaysia. There is no AIAC, Asian International Arbitration Center director. And appointments cannot be made because the government hasn't appointed a director, hanging for how many, is it weeks or months now? That is unacceptable. Look at this contract. Person who nominates an, okay, I've got something to say about adjudicator, because remember, this is a 2006, 2007 subcontract, right? We hadn't had CIPA yet. I chaired that working group in 2003. I know that recommendations that we made as the committee for adjudication was made in 2004, June, and in 2005, we had the international conference, and in 2008, we had lots of roadshows and all that, but there was no CIPA yet. But in preparation, I had contractual adjudication. So that's what it is. It's not adjudication under CIPA, okay? And then likewise, arbitrator. And it says here, look, if not stated, the director or other authorized person from the KLRCA, as it's called then. Now it's called AIAC, not KLRCA anymore. Okay, now director or other authorized person. So all it needs is for a standing provision within these appointing bodies to have an authorized person, and they can carry on with life. You don't have to wait for, oh, the director has gone overseas or on holiday or whatever. Okay, right. And then the act governing arbitration is the act prevailing in Malaysia. It just says that. It doesn't say the specific date of the act and so on, because it might be changed and so on. Okay, I've got another question here from Muhammad Dali. Can liquidated damage rate be put in the contract? Can a clause put in subject to calculation of a loss proven, I suppose. Look, okay, in Malaysia, peculiarly in Malaysia, because of case law, irrespective, I appreciate, there have been more recent cases and all that, but still, it doesn't matter. If you put in a liquidated damage amount, that is the amount that you recover. If a subcontractor challenges it, well, the law now says, well, you have to prove your losses and you can recover reasonable compensation not exceeding and so on. So don't fiddle around with anything. You decide. If you want liquidated damage, put the amount. If you don't want liquidated damage, leave it blank, and whatever amount you prove, you can recover. Okay, so that is the crux of this the whole contract. Now, I'm going to now share with you section 2 of the actual the contract terms itself. Have a look at this, and you tell me, because I will do a poll at the end of this, right? Section 2, part B. The contractor's general obligation. What is it supposed to do? Give timely access to the relevant parts of the project site to the subcontractor. Why relevant parts? Because you might have there could be an implied term in law which says, I'm the subcontractor, I've got a contract with you, I want full possession of site. Oh, watch it. This one, express provision says, give relevant parts. So, 40-story building, I'm the subcontractor for the bathroom tiling for the 40 stories. Well, if the building is not even built yet as a main contractor, you're not going to get the whole thing. So you give relevant parts, okay? Provide all relevant information and facilities in a timely manner. Facilities, on-site, water for the works and all that. Assuming that's the main contractor's obligation, provide it in a timely manner. If it's a main contractor who must give the detailed drawings, provide in a timely manner. So now, we can't be in this standard contract, say facilities, including, where's my toilet, where's my water for the works, where's my temporary electricity. You can't put it here. It has to be in the preliminaries because it depends on the project. In some project, the main contractor is not doing anything. So a big chunk of it, the hospital facilities, for instance, it's a subcontractor who might have to provide, I don't know, temporary gas, oxygen gas, from a tank, for instance. It's not the main contractor providing. So if that's the case, make sure you state in your preliminary section to say, oh, subcontractor, provide oxygen tank for testing and commissioning. Not the main contractor. Do you see how flexible this contract is? And yet, it's impossible to have it in a standard form of contract. Oh, you have to specify everything. You can't. So there you go. Where do you specify it? In the preliminary section of the bills of quantities. Is that part of the contract document? Yes, it is. Okay. Okay. So pay the subcontractor according to the provisions in this contract, which will just say pay within X number of days. End of story. Not back to back. And then, of course, you must name a contract administrator to administer this contract and to name a replacement whenever necessary. Now, did someone click something? Has anyone got a question? I've been babbling on so long. Anyone, any questions? Okay, I'll pause here. Any questions, anyone so far? Okay. Questions? I assume it's all nice and clear. Okay, now what is a subcontractor supposed to do? The subcontractor is supposed to complete the works by the date of completion, based on all provisions, internal equality and all that. And also a small thing here. Hey, subcon, you pay for the stamping fee. Huh? Okay, it's not that expensive anyway. And then, ooh, this is interesting. What is this? The subcontractor is supposed to give a collateral warranty, which is a collateral contract, to the client if requested by the contract administrator. A collateral warranty is a warranty given by the subcontractor directly to the client, giving the client rights that are similar to the contractor's rights under this contract. Okay. The collateral warranty may provide a similar or lesser obligation to that given by the subcontractor to the contractor. It must not provide a higher obligation. That's all. And then it says here, the client may assign the collateral warranty to others. Now, what is this thing about? Okay, basically it's like this. Let's say, I'll use the roofing example if you don't mind. Oh, okay, anyway, I'll use the waterproofing. Okay, so subcontractor is waterproofing, done the work, and then, yeah, of course, under the subcontract, the waterproofing subcontractor gives assurance. Yeah, look, my work is fit for its intended purpose and is waterproof, blah, blah, blah. Okay, that's all. And then the client, the contractor in turn gives the same obligation to the main contractor, to the client. Done. So here, what happens is the waterproofing subcontractor gives a direct undertaking. It's called a collateral contract, a collateral warranty, direct to the client. The same thing. If say the warranty is for 5 years under the main contract, same thing, direct to the client. That's all. It's just just in case the main contractor goes into liquidation, bankrupt, at least the client and the subcontractor have got a direct contractual link. Okay, and sometimes it could even be undertaken on the basis of a direct payment from the client. Why not? Some consideration, or the consideration could be $1 or 1 ringgit. Okay, that's all. Oh, I see. This one is just basically both of them have got an obligation to cooperate with each other. Don't go and cause physical injury or damage to property. Don't cause any financial loss and expense to be incurred by the other. And a reminder for both of them, take the insurance that must be taken under the laws at the place where the work is done. We don't have to go and list down, you must take insurance under EPF, SOXO, your contractors all risk, I don't know what other foreign workers insurance, or God knows what. Oh, you must pay the income tax on your profit you have made. You must pay your employees. Make sure that if your employee leaves, you hold back their money for income. Come on, it's never ending. So you must comply with all the laws under the, in this case, a generic one, comply with all the laws where the work is done, and then any insurance that must be taken in the law, you have to take it, as well as insurance specifically stated in the contract. That's it. There you go. If the contract says all insurance by main contractor, then the subcontractor, you don't take any. If it says this one is for subcontractor, just buy its main contractor, you just take it. That's it. That's the first part of it. And then what is this? This is basically providing relevant information, okay, in a timely manner. It's just a reminder, that's all. I mean, what is there, okay? And then it says here, who decides all the various things? Answer, contract administrator, basically, unless the contract specifies otherwise, somebody else to make those decisions, okay? Now, why would somebody else make a decision? Typically, it might be the client, maybe termination, for instance. Only the client decides. And it says here, contract administrator administers, makes all decisions, must carry out the certification functions impartially and in a timely manner. There you go. I'm just repeating what would be expected of the contract administrator in law anyway. And then look at this. The contract administrator may delegate powers to others. Example, if it's a big project, the contract administrator may delegate instructions relating to M&E works to the contract administrator's representative, for instance. So, and it says here, if you delegate that delegation of powers must be done in writing. Okay, specialist works. And then you can issue instructions on any matter relating to the work. All instructions must be in writing, must be dated, must be identified clearly, and subcontractor must comply with all instructions in a timely manner. And everybody must comply with all decisions and certificates issued by the contract administrator. Example, if the contract administrator is issuing some certificate, then everybody must comply with it. The contractor must comply, the subcontractor must comply. And all notices must be in writing, dated, and submitted in a timely manner. Okay, this was then, all communication must be sent by registered post or delivered by hand with an acknowledgement and so on. Okay, and there is a provision for email. So there you go. So it's possible to have email as a mode of communication. And then contract administrator may issue instructions to change the work. And then if following the instruction, there's a financial effect, as long as it's not done as a result of any breach of contract, contract administrator
4:30.
certifies the value of change in a payment certificate. Okay, right. I hope that you have got a gist of how this contract works. The relationship is between the main contractor and the subcontractor. The rest of the contract follows a similar scheme. When you start the work, if a date is not stated, inform in writing. Contractor must give the subcontractor an up-to-date program for the overall project. Subcontractor must give a program showing the breakdown of the work to be done by the subcontractor. Both contractor and subcontractor must update their programs. These are written in language which is plain. I don't think it's difficult at all. And remember, this contract is not 40, 50 pages with 10, 20,000 words. It goes on to say you progress in a proper way. It says you must complete not later than what's stated in the appendix. Okay, the date for completion may be adjusted according to provisions contract. It says you can describe the work to be started and completed in sections. Very powerful. This contract is hugely powerful to allow sectional completion. Oh, if I don't have sectional completion, don't worry, just put one date. That's it. Okay, and then extension of time. If the subcontractor, you've suffered delay, notify in writing immediately that you can't start the work, or if there's any disruption. Okay, and then state what is the cause of the disruption, show the impact on your program, and so on. And then it says contract administrator must assess the impact on the program, the work to be done. And then it says here, contract administrator decides that if any date for completing the work is affected, then the contract administrator must adjust the date. Why does it say adjust instead of extension of time? Because if the original date is for the subcontracting work, is say June 30th, and then there's an extension given to September because there's a lot of variation work, because overall contract is still within the overall contract to September, and then the client has ordered some omission, and then you omit again. So from June extended to September, and then, but because a lot of work omitted, you can actually contract it back to August because you've omitted back some of the work. So how do you give an extension of time from 30th of September to 31st of August? You know, it's like, wow, that's why I've used the word adjustment of time. Okay, and here are the reasons. Act or failure to act by any of the persons, you know, client, contractor, exceptionally inclement weather, exceptionally adverse natural environment event, government authority. So that's where COVID-69 would kick in under whichever country that has got under the MCO in Malaysia, for instance, movement control order, you would exercise that, okay? And then if the subcontractor suspends the work based on the provision, the subcontractor has got a right to suspend the works if not paid, and so on. So there's a bit of a provision. And it's a main contractor, no, I don't want them to be able to suspend the works. Fine, you can just strike out this clause, modify it slightly. Contract means may adjust the date to be earlier or later than the previous date, but the adjusted date cannot be earlier than the original date for completion. So if the original date for completion is June, then you can extend it to September, you can contract it to August or July, but it cannot be earlier than June. That's what this contract says. Okay, now here's an interesting thing. As an alternative to adjusting the completion date to be later than an earlier date, the contract administrator may, if agreed by the subcon, maintain the earlier date and assess the extra cost incurred by the subcontractor in accelerating the work. Contract administrator then certifies the extra cost of acceleration in a payment certificate. But this can only happen if agreed by the subcontractor. If the subcontractor says, no, I don't want to be accelerating, you can't. Okay? And then completion is, must complete the work based on provision. Subcon must inform the subcontractor, the contract administrator, hey, look, I'm going to finish in 7 days, you know, estimated date. And then contract administrator decide. When he decides, he immediately certifies the date when practical completion is achieved. Final completion basically is a certificate issued after the end of the defects liability period. And that would be at the end when the defects are actually rectified, when all breaches rectified, or a date at the end of the period of C12, whichever is later. Okay, so you have a date, or you have a when they have finished the rectification defects. So if the subcontractor hasn't rectified all the defects at the end of that date, it'll just carry on until it's rectified. Okay, and then compensation for completing late. If the subcontractor doesn't finish the date, pays financial compensation. Financial compensation calculation is for delay between when the work should have been completed and when it's actually completed, certified in a practical completion date. The rate may be pre-specified as liquidated damage. This, if any, is stated in C13, or it may be stated elsewhere in the contract. So if in the BQ you say liquidated damage is so much, that's fine. Okay. If a pre-specified rate is not stated, contract administrator may assess and so on. This is already repeated in section C anyway. Okay. And then it says here, the subcontractor may waive the right to financial compensation for delay. But if the subcontractor is going to waive the right to compensation, liquidated damage or general damages, this must be done in writing. Why do I insist on this? This is a provision which you don't always see in standard forms of contract, certainly in Malaysia or maybe even elsewhere. This is based on my experience once, where shareholders of a particular big client or main contractor, I can't remember, some organization here, a very big company, I think it was a listed company. What happened was the shareholders changed and the directors changed as well. And then the new directors were asking me, hey, look, why is it that liquidated damage was actually due when it was calculated and certificate non-completion was issued, and yet how come, you know, it has been imposed or has been waived and all that? So look, any waiver, better put it in writing, otherwise the new shareholders might not like it and so on. Okay, now I'm going to deal with some questions here. Under the defects liability period, contractual agreement, are the subcontractors also liable to serve the period? Okay, hang on. Under the defect liability period, contractual agreement between client, okay, under the client and the, are the subcontractors liable to serve the period? What amount the subcontractors are liable to serve depends on what you put in this contract. If you are a smart contractor, you will sort of back-to-back it and look, if under the main contract is 12 months, you better put 12 months from the end of the main contract completion date. Yep, you should do that. But if you don't, what happens? The subcontractor for piling works has gone. Any defects, you pick it up, Mr. Main Contractor. That's your choice. It's okay. So you can do whatever you want between you and the subcontractor. Okay? You don't have to. Yes.
Sorry to interrupt you. My question was, under the defect liability period, the contractual agreement between the client and the contractor, are the subcontractors liable to serve the period? Sir, I asked this question just because the subcontractor is not directly answerable to the client, right?
Yes, correct. Right.
So how are they liable to serve the defect liability period?
The answer is, whenever, assuming it's back-to-back, that means the defects liability period of the subcontractor is all the way until the end of the defect liability period of the main contractor, right? Yeah, I'll assume that. So, okay. So what happens is, whenever there's a defect, work done by the subcontractor, effectively is a work done by the main contractor, the client will say, the contract administrator said to the main contractor, Mr. Main Contractor, all this needs to be tidied up and repaint this or redo this or whatever. And then the main contractor will tell the subcontractor, hey, look, under our subcontract, you have to do this, do that. So any instructions they receive from the client or the client's agents, they will just say the same thing to the subcontractor. Please do this, please do that. That's all. So the instruction will have to come from the contractor to the subcontractor. Okay, it can't come from the client. Okay, so whatever obligations that the main contractor has under the main contract, your subcontractor has got a similar obligation, because you know that's their scope and all that. You just tell them to do it. So when you get told to do something, you just tell them to do something. Okay. Good question here. Is section of completion will partly divided liquidated damage? If you had looked carefully at the clause, and I will bring you back to the clause, section of completion will partly divided. The answer is yes. If you look at the provisions, it will automatically be prorated. Example, if the liquidated damage amount is 10,000 ringgit per day, and then, but you've already got sectional completion, you've finished 50% of it, the liquidated damage amount automatically becomes prorated to 5,000 ringgit. Okay? Since the domestic subcontract is distinct from the contract between the contractor and employer, for example, in the PAM, yes, could the contract impose liquidated damage to subcontractor in the event of delay without the need to prove his loss, i.e. a delay by the domestic to the may not be a delay. A delay by the domestic subcontract may not be a delay by the contractor. Okay, right. Yeah, it is distinct. All contracts, there's a concept called privity of contract. Main contract is main contract, subcontract, subcontract. Only parties to a contract can sue or be sued. So between a main con and subcon, subcon can sue main con can sue subcon. Between main con and client, main con can sue client can sue subcon. That's it. It's nice and simple. Okay. Now the question here is the liquidated damage. Can the contractor impose liquidated damage to his subcontractor in the event of delay without the need to prove his loss, i.e. delay? The answer is, if in your subcontract you have included, although I'm suggesting don't, but never mind, you put in liquidated damage amount of say 10,000 ringgit per day. So if you have included 10,000 ringgit in your liquidated damage amount in your subcontractor, the question then is, i.e. delay, without the need to prove. Normally, if it's a liquidated damage amount, you just impose it automatically. If the subcontractor challenges it, then the issue of needing to prove and all that comes in. So otherwise, carry on. If it's 1,000 ringgit per day in your subcontract, delay, just deduct it. End of story. Life goes on. If they challenge it, then the main contractor now has to prove that they actually suffered. And this is where, if they have paid the client 10,000 and yet the subcontract is only 1,000, and assuming the subcontractor is the one who caused delay, the chances are you can prove it, you can recover it. Okay, but to a limit of that, that's the maximum they can recover. Delay by the way may not be a delay. All right. Assuming the delay is the main contractor's fault, then the main contractor cannot impose liquidated damage on the subcontractor. Okay. Okay. Right. I'm just, yeah. Has anyone got any more questions? Okay, I've done the chat function questions. The rest of it, this contract carries on with the same theme. Now, let me see where we are now in terms of participants. Oh, okay. Oh, everybody's still here. We've gone over time, but everybody's still here. Oh, yes, we're supposed to do okay. Let's do a quick snapshot of your attendance or whatever it is that you're supposed to do. Okay, I'll give you a short break, and then I'll be finishing very soon because the rest of the clauses are fairly straightforward. And then I'll also share with you what I am going to do next week. Because remember, asked to unmute. Okay, you can unmute yourself if you want. Okay, just take a snapshot of your attendance. You can do it yourself. Now, what I am going to do is, I'm going to let you carry on doing your own thing in regards to the okay, I'm going to okay, I'm just going to let you do that evidence that you are actually awake and you are you know, if you want a certificate from the organizers, from L2. But what I'm also going to do is, I am also going to do a quick poll very shortly, and it's a simple yes or no, true or false. Okay, yes or no, whatever. Okay. I just need to do that very quickly. And do you agree with the statement? So it's the same question. Do you agree with the statement? And my question is this. Do you think this contract is easy to understand and administer? I repeat, do you think this contract is relatively easy compared to other contracts that you've done? Easy to understand and administer. Is it easy to understand and administer? Yes or no?
It's 4:45.
Of course, you might say don't know because, I can see maybe some might be saying that. Is it easy to understand and to administer? I'm asking this because I'm going to make this contract, the second edition, even easier, okay? And even better than this, In other words, I'll just share with you as you're responding to the poll. This is coming up now. And I'll share with you. My plan is to have the second edition without A, B, C, without section A, B, C. So there's no need for A and then refer to C, I'll just have a section A where you fill in all the blanks, and section B are the terms of the contract, So I just need to know. Come on, you're nearly there. 73% responded. 80% is good. So I repeat my question. Do you think this contract is, relatively speaking, easy to understand and to administer? That's my question. Yeah. Okay, there's some chat questions, so I wait for it. Okay. Please send both of your snapshots and your full name too. Okay, so the tech moderator has said, make sure you send both the snapshots of your pictures or your full name and your full name to l2constructionseries@gmail.com. Okay, I've got 77% of the votes in already. But meanwhile, there's a question. If contractors and a few subcontractors cause the delay, how the liquidated damage should be shared? Okay, that's a good question. My ex-firm's practice is as follows. Okay, right. So anyway, let me answer that. Okay, just one more person to vote, and I'll share with you the results. And that is, I repeat, I'll just repeat, right? Is this contract relatively easy to understand and to administer? Yes or no or don't know? Okay, I repeat, is this contract relatively easy to understand and to administer? Yes or no? The answer is, okay, I'm going to end the poll now. 81% of you voted. That's fine, good enough. And I'm going to share the results. Now, the answer is 83% of you think that this contract is relatively easy to understand and to administer. 10% think it's, okay, it comes to 101%, I'm not sure. And 8% don't know. So a big chunk of you think that it's relatively easy to understand. Okay, as I said, my plan is, and hopefully by next week, I will have a draft of a bit more of a flexible international version, which can be used in Malaysia, of course. Yeah, that will be a second edition. And I plan to have it ready by next week. And next week, what I'm going to do is, I am going to move into how you would tailor make this to suit your needs. And next week, if you do join in, I want you to ask me all the questions like, how do you edit this? How do you modify that? How do you actually administering it? Okay, I know that will be a bit more of a wider session and so on, but I hope we can do that. Now, meanwhile, if you have to go, since you've already signed up anyway, you can. But if you want to stay on and be with me for just the remaining few clauses, which won't take too long, I suspect that we will be finished by 1 o'clock. Okay, 1 o'clock.